Morning and welcome to Embedded Systems 2. This is our first class, if you want to call it, but it's really just an introduction to orientate yourself to the subject and how we're sort of just going to progress with it. I'm going to give you some info, remind you of a few support structures we've got going, and just to get you ready to set off and do this. So let's get started. So the purpose of this subject, basically, so the overall intention of this subject is basically now a continuation of your journey in the embedded systems realm. So you've now covered the 8051 microcontroller and you've played with it in that space, and now we're going to move away from that and we're moving to a new microcontroller that has pretty amazing capabilities. The amount of fun you can have with this microcontroller is is really, it's up to you. You can decide how much fun you want to have with it because it really can do amazing things. And so what we're going to do is you're now going to get to know this new microcontroller and what you can do with it to a large degree. But we are going to focus more on how you interface peripheral devices, new peripheral devices, that really opens up the application possibilities. So we're not going to spend so much time really digging into the full capability of the microcontroller because you've now got the basic skill set, so you can really do that on your own time. I'm going to give you the basics of the microcontroller, of course, so that you know how to work with it, but then we're going to focus on interfacing this microcontroller with other devices that now allows this microcontroller that is so amazing to act in the world and really tackle amazing applications. I mean, what you're going to learn here is going to give you the skill set to do so much. It's mind-blowing. But it really depends on how much fun you want to have and how much effort you are going to bring to the table. So what I want you to think of is this. So today we are here. Let's say we are at this point. And so let's say if this is the overall subject, so let's talk about arches. So I want you to always keep this picture in mind of the arch. And so if this is the subject at large, okay? But of course we don't just do one big subject at large. So here, this is your starting point, this is where you finish. But in order for us to really do this appropriately, we basically have all these smaller sections in the middle which we have. So we've got these smaller arches, and I like the picture of the arch purely because it will always give you some sort of reference point of where you are, and when we have these pictures we can think about, and that helps us sort of just find our own orientation. So for instance, this will be module 1, which is going to be on the introduction to the Atmega microcontroller. And so you can see there's a starting point and it grows, it gets a little bit more difficult, and here it obviously gets at the place where it's most intense. Now typically this is where you as a student, or here, this is where you want to give up. But I want to assure you, just push through. There's enough lectures, there's enough support, and there's enough activities that we'll have midway through this to help really get you to this place, so that here you don't catch fire and ultimately crash and burn at the end here. So imagine all of these. So here we set it up. There's a start, but here there's a point in which you sort of have to really hold the tension of what am I learning, and it's holding that tension between what you currently don't know and what you should know. And it's just to hold that tension until the don't know becomes a known. And by the time you've reached this point, everything you haven't known previously should then be in the box of I do know this now. And then you can see we can comfortably land this arch, sort of like an aeroplane. We have liftoff, we fly, and we land. And then at this point here, there's always a quiz. And that quiz is really to prepare you to sort of help you get used to the way the assessments are, the format of the assessments, and really just to test you, to see where are you in terms of your understanding with this subject. And then we kick it off again and we start, and this process is going to repeat multiple times throughout the subject until we reach this point where you can pass the subject. But hopefully the first prize here is that you learn as much as possible. That is the important thing is here, is we want to learn. We don't just want to pass, because anybody can pass a subject, but not everybody will learn and really absorb the knowledge and take that knowledge and become and make it something useful and become a person of influence with what you know. So rather be in this box. This is just a bonus. To pass is a bonus, but I want you to stay here in this space. However, this is going to require a lot of blood, sweat and tears, late nights, talking to friends, talking to me, asking questions, struggling, sweating, bleeding, crying. This is just brutal. This is the process. However, just think of it like this. Many people have done this before you, and they're still alive. They made it. They didn't die. They almost died, but they didn't die. I've been through this process. I almost died, but I made it, and I'm here. So you can too. Just think of it like that when the going gets tough. So ultimately here, the outcome that we want for this subject in a simple sort of summary is you want to be able to design and integrate multiple peripheral devices with this microcontroller so that you can create applications. So how will we do this? Well, just a quick reminder, this is a 24 credit subject. That means it's double the credits of your other subjects, which means there's double the amount of time, double the amount of work you put in to this subject. So typically for your other subjects, there's 6 hours of contact time. Here, there's 12 hours of contact time. There's 6 hours of theory. There's 6 hours of practical. It's pretty intense. However, this subject does count as 2 subjects in your sort of curriculum or in your larger course. So you've got the time on your timetable. So don't think, oh, just think of this as you're doing 2 subjects. Okay? But it's a lot of time, and it is now in a short space. But think of this as if you're doing 2 subjects, and then hopefully it won't freak you out that much. So how are we going to do this? Now, there's on-demand videos, which covers the content. Now, on-demand means you can access those videos anytime, anywhere, any place, watch them, learn. However, I will sort of tell you per schedule what video to focus on for that day, for that session, because the theory is all online. The only time we will meet on campus is when we do Q&A sessions and when we do practical sessions. And that is always prearranged, and that is always we will establish that rhythm. But for today, this day, the first day, which we have a theory session scheduled on this lovely Monday, today you will focus on the videos that I will post, that I will make available, and that I will tell you what to watch. And then from there we will get onto a rhythm, and we're further down the line in this week. We will meet on campus, and we'll have our first Q&A, and we'll hit it, and it's going to be fun. And then there's 3 semester tests. You've got a lot of experiments. There's a project. There's quizzes after each arch, like we've seen here. Each arch basically finishes with a quiz, and so the quiz is there to help you prepare and to measure and see where you are. Then there's also 2 assignments. Now I must remind you that there is sub-minimums of 50% on the experiments as well as the project, and then on your theory work there's a 40% sub-minimum, and then you must have your final mark should be above 50% for you to qualify to pass this subject, also keeping in mind that you've qualified for the sub-minimums. So agenda and rules, there's not much I want to say about that at this point. Roles. So rules and roles is who does what here. Now, I want you to really take responsibility for your learning and for what you are going to achieve here. So I am your guide. I am the person that helps you get across the river. But I am not the one who is going to push you across the river. I am just that stranger you found next to the side of the road who has crossed the river multiple times, and I will help you get across the river, but you need to put in the effort to get across this river. And you must use me as much as you can. You ask me questions, you consult. So I'm going to give you all the guidance that you need. I'm going to teach you all the basic skills you need. But then you are the one who will have to ultimately build this raft based on what I teach you, based on my experience and based on my knowledge. You will build the raft and then you will go across the river. But I cannot build that raft for you. But I can give you all the skills, and I can tell you where to find the materials, but you must build the raft. And all of this is going to happen in a semester. And so every week there's 12 hours worth of work that needs to be done. So it is a jam-packed, heavy, hard-paced sprint that we are doing. But others have done it. You can do this. I'm just putting the truth out there, and I want to make sure you know exactly what to expect from this subject so that you are not disillusioned halfway through. So what are our next steps? Our next steps is we're going to start with the on-demand videos to kick us off with the ATmega 328. Then there's always going to be some practice examples and exercises. There'll be content discussions, and then Q&A sessions. Now you'll notice there is a discussion board in the section on Brightspace. So you really need to make sure that your registration is in order so that you can access this content and that you don't fall behind, because if you fall behind in the subject, then it is painful to catch up. So I don't want you to play catch up. I really want you to really stay on top of your game. So that is your welcome from me, your lecturer. I don't know if I introduced myself in the beginning, but most of you will know me purely because I have seen you in some of your previous levels. But if you haven't, my name is Mr. Peterson, and I'm going to be with you for this semester, for this subject, and we're going to have some fun. You can ask people who have already passed this subject. It's always fun. We have some fun even when we cry a little bit every now and then. So let's do this, and remember there's a WhatsApp group, so please join that WhatsApp group, because that's where you get support. That's where I'm on that WhatsApp group, so you can ask questions, you can ask me questions. Just never phone me in the middle of the night. I won't be too impressed. Well, I probably won't even. I'll ignore the phone call because I'm sleeping. But let's keep it to business hours. You're always welcome to drop your question on the group, and when I'm awake and ready and available, I'll always I'll answer you to the best of my ability, as you might know based on the experience in embedded systems too, the first time I saw you guys there. So thank you, and let's have some fun.